Hello, this is Mark from I Am Organic Gardening, located in Zone 6B, and it's been about 2.5 weeks since I've been out here. In that 2.5 weeks time, I've been busy planting everything up. Wish I could have got it on video, but we had nothing but pretty much rain every day or a drizzle, and I didn't want to ruin the camera. So I want to get this before it rains for the next 3 days, which is in the forecast. So I want to show you around what's going on in the no-till homestead garden. So the first thing I had to do was to cut down the winter rye that was anywhere from 4 to 5 feet tall. And that was starting to get very difficult because of all the rain we're having. Now, I came up with my little invention here that I use the cordless hedge trimmer, which is located on the bottom of that cedar with the yellow wheels on it. And then I have the bar come off to the side, and I would just gently push it along the row and cut down the winter rye. Now, it was doing fine, but now with the ryegrass being wet all the time, it was binding up, it was starting to rain, and the cordless drill isn't technically waterproof, so that became a problem. So my next step was, and I saw a couple of videos on it, was to buy a scythe. Now, I haven't used a scythe in probably 40 years on my grandparents' farm. One summer I had to use it pretty much for 3 months straight, cleaning out underneath the barbed wire fence along their 300-acre farm. But the best thing, it's waterproof, it's easy to sharpen, and I was out here with a pair of headphones on, and as you can see here, I went down this row that's behind here, all the way to the end, and then the thing with the scythe is that when you go to sweep it, and I'll show you, when you sweep back and forth, you gain all the material to one side, which I decided was good because that's where I planted my pepper plants into. So in this long row of straw that's laying on the ground that's at least 2 inches thick, I have located inside of that my pepper plants. Now I'll explain here. You can see here is that the one pepper plant up on the top of the screen there is I just pushed the winter rye stalks aside after they dried out, and I planted that pepper plant directly in the ground. No tilling whatsoever. Again, using my putty knife, just making a small hole in there and just pushing that transplant directly into the ground. Now the black line here that you see, that's my irrigation line. Now, hopefully I won't ever need it, but what has happened in the past is that we've gotten solid rain probably for a month and a half, and then we get nothing. So hopefully that's an investment. And then further to the left of that is a irrigation line also too, but that brings multiple hundreds of gallons of water in that hose. I don't use it filled up with water. What I'll do is I'll place that on top of the other irrigation line, the black one, just to keep it in place to weigh it down. That's all the purpose of that blue irrigation line is for. And here's that pepper plant inside of the winter rye. And I'm going to call that bird nest planting from now on, because basically you build a bird nest around it and you plant directly in the soil. No tilling, no nothing. So remember, this half acre that I started with last year, just planting the winter rye on the ground, which you see that tall hedge over here, that's where I have kale growing and also lettuce inside that area, so the wind doesn't hurt the kale plants or the lettuce too early in the season. And I'll show you that in a little bit. But what's nice about this is that I was able to get out there with a scythe, cut this all down, and my only investment besides buying that tool now and the other one is the $50 I spent for all this winter rye. Now you can see that I have all this beautiful straw that's going to be feeding the soil, plus I have this green strip, which I love doing too. That's still growing soil for me. That's the winter rye coming back up and growing again. Now, I don't know how tall it's going to get either, but no matter what, I can always cut it and make more straw, covering the soil, which is going to feed the soil food web. And it has a living root in the ground. And here's the romaine lettuce growing inside that hedge that I had. Now, you can see that it's going, again, extremely well. It's surviving all this rain. It's actually probably boosting it with all this cool temperatures, loving it. And at the very end, I'll show you, I'll get a close-up of it, is I have some kale back there. So here at the end of the romaine lettuce row, which is probably, I think, 75 plants I got planted in there, I have my 2 types of kale. On the right-hand side is the dinosaur kale, or lacinato. I forgot the name of the other one, but I'll research and just show it on the bottom when I edit the film. But it's, again, doing very nicely and loving this cool wet weather. To my viewer the other day that asked a very good question, why did I use paper early in the season, is that the winter rye was not tall enough. It was only about a foot tall, so I could not have enough material here. So I basically just cut the winter rye out of the side, and it's just like grass. It will go pretty much away or decompose within, say, 2 to 3 weeks. That's why I chose to put this paper down to give me a longer lasting surface to cover the soil. And in the romaine lettuce case, I use the paper to keep the romaine lettuce very clean. The straw will keep it clean, but I want the paper to adhere closer to the ground so you can see as the lettuce grows here that it gets so close to the ground that I do not want any problems with the straw interfering with the growth of the lettuce. To the right of us is our first row of romaine lettuce, and I'll plant another row right next to that inside the paper. But this whole field over here that I have the straw drying in from the winter rye, that's also going to be planted up in romaine lettuce. I plan on growing at least 1,200 pieces of romaine lettuce this year, easily in this area, and just continually planting every probably 2 to 3 weeks, so I have a continuous harvest. Just as a little side note, when people come to my farm, I do not cut the romaine lettuce. It's cut to order. They'll walk out with me, they'll actually pick their own if they wish to or something like that. I'll cut it so there's no injury on the farm, and we usually sell it for $1 a piece. Now you also may be wondering, isn't that very time consuming and don't you have to run around a lot? Yes, it keeps me in shape, but also too, located in front of you is the strawberry beds that I have located for that reason in front of where I go out and cut, specifically to their order, so they get something fresh instead of sitting on a table for a couple hours or for the next day. And then I don't have any waste. So this way, they come out with me or they see the strawberries, I would just say, oh, why don't you just pick a couple for yourself, and that will keep them busy until I get the other thing done. Plus they're getting a free handful or two of strawberries, or they can, or as much as they can eat before they go, and I get a return customer. So I want to show you how my little homemade sickle bar works. It's not a scythe, it's a sickle bar, we call it. Now, if I bought something to attach to my tractor, that would run anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000. Now, it would give me a bigger cutting area, about 8 feet wide. Now, there's also a smaller machine that runs about $3,000 that has its own engine on it, and that, again, maybe cuts about a 4-foot path. So I'm cutting a 2-foot path for maybe $150 in materials that I used. I'll be making a separate video how to use a scythe in the future. I actually got an order to grow as many watermelons as I can, so I changed a couple fields around, and that's where I had the sunflowers growing last year. So I'm going to use a scythe to cut down pretty much, I think it's going to be 1.5 acres that we're going to plant up in watermelons this coming year, if the weather sticks with us. I want to thank you very much for watching today's video. As you can see, it's starting to cloud up. It wasn't supposed to rain until this evening, but I think the weatherman was off once again. I heard a little thunder in the background, so I'm going to edit this video and say goodbye. And I thank you very much again for stopping by on my farm, and I'll see you shortly on hopefully a sunnier day. Thanks.